This is Boxing Talk 8576. I want to talk about Mayweather's blueprint. His blueprint on his how he mapped out his career, how he wanted it to go, and the way that he got to the point he is right now. But first, I want to give a couple shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Zone 6 and Quitting Ball 23. Right now, they are having a great debate on Mayweather's legacy, and it's a good spirited debate. It's cool to debate and keep it respectable. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody should take this serious. And make it seem like they don't like each other. Quitting Ball and Zone 6 don't like each other. They have respect for each other. They respect each other's opinions, and all they doing is having a good debate, which we should have debates, every now and then. If we have different opinions, we should debate it and see why your opinion is the way it is, and why the other person's opinion is the way it is. And that's good stuff, man, that they're doing. Shout out to those guys, and both of those guys have really good channels. Check them out. I want to talk about Mayweather's blueprint and how he mapped out his career and got to the point he is right now. Mayweather was in the Olympics. I remember seeing him in the Olympics, being, we're the same age, so, when he was in the Olympics, I was the same age as him, so I was just intrigued, to see someone the same age as me, going through the Olympics. I followed him and Zab Judah. I know it was some controversy in one of Mayweather fights to where a lot of people thought he beat the guy, but being at the Olympic style scoring, which a lot of people been having problems with over the years, a lot of people feel like he got cheated out of the fight, and possibly got cheated out of being able to win a gold medal. But I just remember him being fast, and people talking about how good he was, and he was the son of a fighter, and he was Roger Mayweather's nephew. So they said he had a good pedigree, and his career started. He beat Chico. He beat Hernandez for his first world title. And I was following his career. I remember him fighting Diego Corrales. I remember Corrales was a knockout artist. A lot of people picked Corrales to beat Mayweather. That was like his biggest test so far in his career. They both was undefeated. They were both probably the same age. He destroyed Diego Corrales in that fight. He knocked him down 5 times. And Diego Corrales' corner, actually his father stopped the fight, and Diego Corrales was crying in the ring because he said he's a warrior, he don't want the fight to end, but his father, seeing that he was taking a beating, and it's always good to save a fighter, to fight another day. And that was Mayweather's, still right now today, a lot of people opinions, and in my opinion, that was Mayweather's greatest performance in the ring. He was fast, he was quick. He threw combinations more than what he's throwing right now. He was jabbing to the body, which I told y'all. Look at Mayweather now. He don't jab to the body anymore. He was jabbing to the body. He kept Diego Corrales turning him. Diego Corrales could not catch up with him. One thing about a puncher, they have to be set to punch. He kept making Diego Corrales reset, and Mayweather defense was, he had one of the best defenses ever in history. Got to give him that credit. That shoulder roll is hard to hit him. He has a copy box stat of less punches landed on him since the copy box been taking that stat. So that's a great thing that he has with the defense. And then it was after he fought Diego Corrales. Mayweather probably should have took off more than what he took off, and I know he felt like he should have took off more than what he took off. He started calling out Sugar Shane Mosley. He started calling out Oscar De La Hoya for fights. But let's be honest, they Oscar De La Hoya was a big draw at the time. He wasn't going to fight Mayweather at that time anyway. And Sugar Shane Mosley, he was concentrating on making a fight, setting himself up to make a fight with De La Hoya, because at the time De La Hoya is what Mayweather is right now, the cash cow. De La Hoya was the face of boxing then, and how Mayweather is the face of boxing right now. So people was trying to set themselves up to fight De La Hoya, like people are trying to set, like fighters are trying to set themselves up right now to fight Mayweather. So they wouldn't fight him, and he was promoted by Bob Arum, and him and De La Hoya was promoted by Bob Arum, and Bob Arum was quoted as saying Mayweather gonna have his time, but right now it's Oscar's time. So he was spending more time promoting Oscar, and he wasn't spending a whole lot of time promoting Mayweather. And Mayweather was not happy. He had a lot of disputes with Bob Arum, and rightfully so, because Mayweather had really good skills. He was dominating guys, and he felt like he wasn't getting the attention, and he wasn't getting the purses wasn't not matching his skills. He wasn't getting paid according to what he was doing in the ring, and so he decided to part ways with Bob Arum, and they still have a dispute right now. Bob Arum on him money, but Mayweather fought Arturo Gatti on pay-per-view. He destroyed Arturo Gatti. Arturo Gatti is a good fighter. Arturo Gatti is not an A fighter. Arturo Gatti to me is maybe a B fighter, maybe. Arturo Gatti got power. He has some good comeback wins. He like the Rocky of boxing. Has some good comeback wins, real tough, can take punches, got a really good chin. But Mayweather stopped him. Mayweather, he was dazzling in that fight, man. He threw beautiful. Go back and look at that fight. He threw beautiful combinations, man. I mean, dude, he was hitting Gotti so many times in so many different places. Gotti didn't even know where the punches were coming from. He beat Gotti up so bad, his jaw locked up, and he couldn't even take the mouthpiece out his mouth when he went to the corner. They couldn't even take the mouthpiece out. Buddy McGirt told him, "I can't let you take these punches, man. I'm stopping the fight." So Buddy McGirt rightfully stopped the fight. That was another really good performance by Mayweather. And then he moved up. Well, I know he had a really good fight versus I could never get the man's name right, but Castillo, Jose Luis Castillo. It was his first fight at that weight class. He fought Jose Castillo. Was considered a dangerous fighter. He was the champion at the time. Luis Jose Castillo was the champion at the time. Mayweather fought him. It was a really, really good fight. A lot of people, including me, thought Luis Castillo won the fight. I know Mayweather said that he had hurt his rotator cuff before he entered the ring. My only problem with fighters talking about their injuries after the fight is, don't get in the ring then if you know that you have an injury. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to hamper you to the point to where you can't perform the way you want to perform. To me, once you climb in between those ropes and you start fighting, the injury thing has nothing to do with it no more, because you decided you were good enough to beat the man despite the injury. That's why I don't talk about the injury. That's why I never, like David Haye talked about his toe when he fought the Klitschko. Oh, my toe, I broke my toe before the fight. That's why I couldn't move and pivot off my foot and do what I wanted to do. No, don't fight then. Don't fight if you know you're going to have an excuse to fall back on if you have a poor performance or you lose the fight. I don't want to hear that. Don't go in the ring then, and then we'll know. Okay, he had an injury. He couldn't perform. He couldn't perform the way he wants to perform at a high level, and he's not going to fight the guy. Okay, that's fine. But it was a close fight. I thought Castillo won, in my opinion, and Mayweather obviously thought the fight was really, really close, and anybody could have won because he fought the man again. He turned around, and Mayweather don't fight rematches, and you can look through his career. He don't fight rematches. So he fought Jose Luis Castillo again, This time he wanted to fight a little bit more comfortably than the first time. So that was another good win for Mayweather. So Mayweather was on his way to building, a good legacy. He was beating fighters that people picked that thought they could beat him, was on his same level, and he was on his way. And then Mayweather wanted. He still was looking around like, man, I'm still not getting paid the way I want to get paid. So Mayweather came up with this blueprint of being the villain. He decided, okay, I'm gonna go the villain route. I'm gonna go the villain route. I'm gonna be the villain. I'm gonna make people hate me. So he went the villain route, and then things started changing. People started paying attention more to Mayweather. Crowds started coming out. He started making more money, and then see, this is the problem. What I got with him making himself the villain was this was Mayweather's plan. And a lot of people, a lot of diehard Mayweather lovers that really like Mayweather, they say that people hate on Mayweather, don't give Mayweather the credit of being a great fighter, which I give credit where credit is due. The man is a great fighter. The man is the best fighter right now, pound for pound, the best fighter in the world, hands down. I'm gonna tell you right now, hands down. He's the champion at 147. He's the champion at 154. But shout out to Zone 6. Zone 6 said it's a lot of work still yet to be done in both of those divisions, which it is a lot of work yet to be done. It's a lot of work that, and a lot of fighters that people want to see him fight, to test his skills against. But he fought and got a mega fight with Oscar De La Hoya. Now, Oscar De La Hoya at the time was a cash cow. He was at the position that Mayweather's in right now. Oscar De La Hoya, in my opinion, I know a lot of people don't like Oscar De La Hoya. People say they don't like, him as a fighter. But I like Oscar De La Hoya. I'm gonna admit, I like Oscar De La Hoya. I think Oscar De La Hoya was a really good fighter, and he was in the mode of a boxer puncher. He can box you, but he had the left hook. They can clean you up. They can get you out of there. He had a punch that can get you out of there. He can clean you up with that left hook. He had a devastating left hook, and he can box. When Oscar get on his toes, especially when he fought Tito Trinidad, which I thought Oscar won that fight against Tito Trinidad, in my opinion, he gave Tito Trinidad a boxing lesson. People need to go back and look at that fight, actually look at the fight and look at how he was outclassing Tito Trinidad. I know he cruised the last 3 rounds, but if you look at the first 9 rounds, Oscar De La Hoya won 7, in my opinion, of those first 9 rounds. Now, if he cruised the last 3 rounds and he won 7 of the first 9, that means Tito Trinidad at best won 5 rounds. At best won 5 rounds, and that means De La Hoya still won the fight. It was a mistake of him cruising like that, because if he'd have won one of those last 3 rounds, he definitely would have had the fight in the bag. But he thought he won enough rounds, which I did in my opinion, that, Tito Trinidad was a puncher, So Tito Trinidad anytime could knock you out. So, Oscar De La Hoya played it safe. He may have played a little bit too safe, but he played it safe, and he was on a cruise to victory. Because, in my opinion, he earned the right by the way he was fighting in the first 9 rounds. Hey, I'm gonna stay away from the man. I'm not gonna risk getting knocked out, not to put in all this good work. He gave that man a boxing lesson. Just go back and look at the fight. But anyway, he fought Oscar De La Hoya. Him and Oscar De La Hoya had a heated press tour. I know he got under Oscar De La Hoya's skin. See what he did? He learned the art of, playing mind games. He was playing mind games on Oscar De La Hoya. And he stole Oscar De La Hoya's gym bag. Oscar De La Hoya accused Mayweather of stealing his gym bag at one of the press conferences or something like that. He brought chickens out there, talking about Oscar De La Hoya as a chicken. And see what he was doing, he was messing with Oscar De La Hoya's mind. He wanted Oscar De La Hoya's mind to be on, I want to destroy Mayweather. And Mayweather did a good job in doing that, because when you go right at Mayweather, because Castillo, people thought that was the blueprint, put a lot of pressure on Mayweather, pressure. But what people don't realize is Mayweather learned from that fight. He learned a lot from that fight. So he was adapt to that. He adapted to that style, and people got this false thing about put a lot of pressure on Mayweather to come forward, come forward, come forward. But now at this point, by the time he fought Oscar De La Hoya, he had already adapted to that come forward style. So he wanted Oscar De La Hoya to come forward. So that's why he was playing these mind games on him. He wanted Oscar De La Hoya to be so pent up when he got in the ring and so mad that he was not going to follow his game plan. But it was a really good fight. It was close. Mayweather pulled. I was going for Oscar De La Hoya, but I'm gonna call it how I see it. Mayweather pulled away and won the fight by at least 3 rounds, in my opinion. Some people say Oscar De La Hoya won the fight. To me, Oscar De La Hoya abandoned the jab. If you'd have kept up with the jab, maybe he could have pulled the fight out. But another reason why Oscar De La Hoya abandoned the jab was Mayweather was catching him with that counter right hand. You know what I'm saying? So he was making Oscar De La Hoya. He made the adjustment because at first Oscar De La Hoya was being successful with that jab for like 3 rounds in a row, and Mayweather made the adjustment and started countering Oscar De La Hoya, making Oscar De La Hoya keep his jab at home, which was a good strategy on Mayweather's part. Oscar De La Hoya just didn't make another strategy move after Mayweather started countering him with the right hand. He didn't have another gear or another plan to counter the right hand. So Mayweather pulled away and won the fight. And then this put Mayweather in the position of being the cash cow, the face. He started becoming the face of boxing, and he started making money like he wanted, like he always wanted. He always thought that his skills, in the ring, should produce the money for the fights that he was fighting. So he fought Ricky Hatton from Britain. Ricky Hatton, he brought, his fans. So this was going to be a big fight. They both were undefeated. They were promoted the fight as, someone's old has to go. Ricky Hatton was a good fighter, though. I mean, I give Mayweather a lot of credit for this win, because Ricky Hatton was people gave Ricky Hatton a good chance of winning the fight. Ricky Hatton was on the upcline. He was coming up. You know what I'm saying? He had beat Kasazu, made Kasazu quit on his stool. So then he called out Mayweather, and it was a article in the, saying that Mayweather looked at Leonard Ellerby and said, "Make the fucking fight." So they made the fight. He beat Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton had a alright game plan. His game plan was pressure with foot speed. Ricky Hatton had really, really good foot speed. He was going, in the first 3 or 4 rounds, he was giving Mayweather problems with his foot speed. You could see Mayweather was a little uncomfortable with his foot speed, but then Mayweather adapted, and he started catching Ricky Hatton with flush punches. I seen by like round 4 or 5, he started catching Ricky Hatton with flush punches, and I was like, yeah, this is not gonna last long, because you can't, you know what I'm saying? I don't care how good your chin is, you can't keep taking flush right hands. So he beat Ricky Hatton with a beautiful step back left hook and made Ricky Hatton's head hit the post, and that was the end of Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton got up from that, then he ended up stopping Ricky Hatton. So that was a good win. You know what I'm saying? So Mayweather was well on his way. But after Oscar De La Hoya, I forget. After Oscar De La Hoya, let's go back to that. He retired after he fought Oscar De La Hoya. He said he accomplished everything in the sport that he wanted to accomplish. But at the time, people thought there was some 147 fighters at welterweight that were coming up, like Berto, Paul Williams was out there. It was a lot of fighters out there that Kermit Cintron, that people thought. Antonio Margarito, people thought that they wanted to see Mayweather against, but he retired. And see, this is the problem people got. People was saying, okay, this is part of Mayweather's blueprint, to let those guys fight each other, let them guys take some losses and let them beat up on each other. Then Mayweather retired, and he comes back after I think he came back after a year and a half. And by the time he came back, Paul Williams was out of the division because nobody wanted to fight Paul Williams. So they pushed him out the division because he couldn't get no fights. He had to move up to 154 because he couldn't get no fights at 147. Everybody was, scared of fighting a guy that was 6'1", 6 feet, 82-inch reach, 81-inch reach, and threw Paul Williams threw like 100 punches around. I remember him fighting Antonio Margarito and destroyed Antonio Margarito. His punch output was just too much for Antonio Margarito to deal with. And at the time, everybody was talking about Antonio Margarito as being the most dangerous fighter, you know what I'm saying, out there, in a lot of people's opinions. But yeah, he didn't fight a lot of those guys, and people thought, you know what I'm saying, he ducked those guys. He retired because he seen that the kitchen was getting hot. There was a lot of competition that was coming up. Pacquiao was making his up climb. Pacquiao was coming up, and then he came back. That's when he fought Ricky Hatton, and then he kind of retired again. It's like, okay, you keep retiring. There's these other fighters out here, people want to see you fight, but you retire. You know what I'm saying? So this is your blueprint. You're gonna come back, fight somebody, and then retire. And in my opinion, his blueprint is Mayweather want to make as much money as possible, but take less risk. You know what I'm saying? He don't want to take a high risk. I don't think Mayweather even care about his legacy, because Mayweather even was quoted to say, legacy is not going to pay my bills. He wants to make more money, as much money as he can with taking a less risk, which is fine. It's fine if you want to make a lot of money, because it's his prize fighting. I got no problem with that. I got no qualms with him want to make a lot of money, because trust me, boxing is a hard living. You know what I'm saying? It takes special people to box for a living. I'm serious. And I give credit to him for saying, hey, legacy don't pay my bills. But then, you know what I'm saying, at the same time, and then he was quoted as saying he's the best fighter, not of right now, of the era. He said he was the best fighter ever. And he pointed out, said, I'm the best fighter because those guys that y'all talking about that are better than me, all those guys took losses. All those guys took a lot of punishment. I don't take punishment. So what that tells you? That tells you that I'm the best fighter ever. No. See, that's when people start looking at Mayweather's legacy. That's when people start taking a hard look at Mayweather and saying, hold on, you saying you better than Sugar Ray Robinson? You saying you better than Muhammad Ali? You saying you better than Sugar Ray Leonard? You saying you better than Joe Louis? You saying you better than Mike Tyson? You saying you better than George Foreman? You saying you better than Holyfield? You know what I'm saying? Even current fighters, you know what I'm saying? You saying you better than the hitman Thomas Hearns? You know what I'm saying? You say you better than Rafael Benitez? You saying you better than Roberto Duran? You saying you better than Julio Cesar Chavez? You know what I'm saying? These are some great fighters that done some great things. So if you're gonna say you the best fighter ever, then hey, we gotta look at your legacy. We gotta look at who you fought and when you fought them. And a lot of people say you retired because you wanted to duck a lot of these fighters that were coming up that, you know what I'm saying, that had potential to give you hard fights, like a Paul Williams. And I can tell you right now, if he'd have fought Paul Williams when Paul Williams was hot, in my opinion, Paul Williams would have beat him. Paul Williams for one had height. He was 6'1". His reach was 81 inches, people. 81-inch reach. And he threw 100 punches around. You know what I'm saying? And that would have been a lot for Mayweather to deal with. That would have been a whole lot for Mayweather to deal with. That was a guy that was, potential threat to that, you know what I'm saying, that old. And Mayweather, that's his whole thing, if you listen to Mayweather interviews, his whole thing is built off of being undefeated. So he has to protect that O, because that's part of his persona, is that O. You know what I'm saying? That's his whole world, is his O. His undefeated record is part of his slogan. I'm undefeated. You can't say these other fighters is better than me because they took losses. So if Mayweather ever he loses that argument of being the best fighter ever, because he put it out there as you have to be undefeated to be the best fighter of all times. That's how he's saying. That's his definition. That's the definition he's putting out there. So that's why he's protecting his O. And then the whole Manny Pacquiao saga. You know what I'm saying? you know, when Manny Pacquiao was hot and he was hot, everybody wanted to say, "Oh man, this fight got to happen. This fight is gonna happen because you know how much money is into this fight." And I know Mayweather had a problem with Bob Arum. Let's be fair to Mayweather. Him and Bob Arum don't are not the best buddies, but but it's fighters and promoters in the past that made fights even though they didn't get along because the money aspect was so great that they got along to make the fight because there was a lot of money to be made. Don King and Bob Arum didn't see eye to eye back in the day, but they made fights. So you could still make the fight. You could still make the fight. The fight could still be made. You could put all that personal stuff aside and still make the fight. You know how much money? He would have made way more money in this fight than he made in the Canelo and the De La Hoya fight. They would have shattered. I mean, this fight would have been so big. I mean, it would have been crazy big. Everybody was on the edge of their seats. Even people that's not even casual fans wanted to see this fight. I have friends that really don't even watch boxing that wanted to see this fight. So, and then Mayweather, Pacquiao was out there winning. He came up from lower weight classes. Pacquiao was on the up climb, beating guys, knocking guys out, fighting bigger guys. And then I hear an interview with Mayweather's father saying, I'm gonna tell my son don't even fight Pacquiao because what he's doing is not possible. What Pacquiao's doing is not possible. No guy comes from the lower weight class like he came from and fighting guys at 154 and beating up guys that weighs 15, 20 pounds heavier than him, coming from the weight class he came from. So what they were saying was what Pacquiao was doing, it wasn't natural. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when the whole drug thing started coming out. That's when you started hearing the drug beat. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather interview after interview. You know what I'm saying? He was slowly saying. He wasn't saying Pacquiao was on drugs. The first couple times, or the first interviews he was having, he was saying, I want a drug test. You know what I'm saying? I want fighters to have a drug test. I want a drug test to be in this match if we're gonna fight. And then you know what I'm saying? He finally started showing his colors and saying, "Hey, fighters don't get better as they get older." Because Pacquiao took some losses when he first turned pro because he turned pro. He was at a young age, and like a lot of fighters that turn pro, I think he turned pro at like 16 or something like that. And a lot of fighters that turn pro, even in you can see Mexico, the fighters turn pro at 16. So you fighting grown men at 16, so they gonna take some losses. Some of them gonna take some losses. And Pacquiao took some losses. Pacquiao got knocked out. I think a couple times he got knocked out. Like he got knocked out against Marquez. He got knocked out cold. And Mayweather said, you don't get better as you get older. Fighters don't become ordinary fighters, and then as they get older, they don't go from ordinary to extraordinary. And what they were trying to say was what Pacquiao was doing was illegitimate. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't doing it the right way. So they say he was on drugs. So Mayweather, I'm not going to fight him unless he take a drug test. Pacquiao came back and said, Mayweather, you don't make the rules. I'm not going to take a drug test for you. Just because you say take a drug test, I take the drug test that the boxing commission give, and that should be good enough. But Mayweather wanted him to take Olympic-style drug testing. But, he said you don't make the rules, which was a prideful thing on Pacquiao part. It's like, hey, I'm not going to let you make all the rules. I'm just as big as you. You know what I'm saying? I draw... my draw is just as big as yours. You may draw, Mayweather was drawn a little bit more than Pacquiao, but hey, my draw is just as big as you. My star is just as big as you. I'm popular, just as popular as you are. You know what I'm saying? I bring just as many fans as you. I'm not gonna let you make all the demands. So the fight never happened. That was a stall in the fight. So that's when we had everybody was disappointed because the fight wasn't made when it should have been made. Then another year went by, and then it was the drug thing was still a hold up on the fight. And then before Pacquiao fought Marquez and got knocked out by Marquez, he said, okay, I think a year before that, he said, okay, I'll take the drug test, and then Mayweather came back and said, now here we go. Okay, if you take the drug test, I'm gonna pay you $30 million because you have not made more. I'm gonna pay you 30 or 40 million dollars because you have not made more than that in none of your fights, and this would be the most money you make. He said he called Pacquiao and told Pacquiao, I'm gonna give you $40 million. I'll wire you half right now. The other half you'll get after the fight if you agree to fight. And Pacquiao said no. And then rightfully so. Why would Pacquiao fight for that less money when he can when he knows there's gonna be a lot of money made in this fight? You know what I'm saying? This fight can probably generate like $200-300 million, and I'm gonna accept $40 million from you, and then don't get no pay-per-view split. You know, Mayweather didn't want to he didn't want to share none of the pay-per-view split. He just wanted to get Manny Pacquiao $40 million off the top, and let's fight. Pacquiao said no, and to me, Mayweather knew that the man was a threat to his O. If he didn't think Manny Pacquiao was a legitimate threat to beating him and a threat to his O, he would not have came out and said the man was on drugs. He would have fought the man, and you know what I'm saying. He wouldn't even cared if he even thought Manny Pacquiao was on performance enhancing drugs. I'm gonna go out there and beat the crap out of him because I believe I'm the best fighter ever, not the best fighter of the era. I'm the best fighter era of ever. You know what I'm saying? The best fighter ever. I can beat that man. You know what I'm saying? And if he say his defense is the best ever, it don't matter if a man is on performance enhancing drugs. If he can't hit you, what is good is the performance enhancing drugs going to do? See, that's the smoke screen Mayweather threw up to say I'm not going to fight Pacquiao because I think he's on drugs because he knew at the time Mayweather knew Pacquiao was a legitimate threat to beat him. I'm telling y'all, and I don't know why people can't see this. Not I'm not saying Pacquiao would have definitely beat Mayweather, but Pacquiao had a great chance of beating Mayweather, and Mayweather knew it, man. People that box know when fighters that are threats to them. They know, y'all. I'm telling you. I used to box. I used to sit around in boxing gyms all the time. In our boxing gym, we had about 15 fighters in there. And we used to sit around, and guys used to talk about, you know what I'm saying, I don't want to fight that style. Used to tell our trainer, don't give me that type of style, don't give me that type of fight, because, you know, I don't want to fight that guy. Our trainer used to present fights to certain guys, you know what I'm saying, no, I don't want to fight him. Yeah, because, you know, he got a good chance of beating you. You want to fight somebody that you know you got a good chance of beating. Case in point, I had a friend that he could have fought in Vegas for $6,000. He could have fought this guy that was 10-0 with 8 knockouts. But he decided, no, I don't want to fight that guy because that guy got 10 wins with 8 knockouts. That guy probably can beat me. And then he ended up taking a lesser opponent, fighting somebody that I think it was their second fight. You know what I'm saying? Either it was their second fight or their first pro debut. He wanted to fight one of those guys because he knew he had a good chance of winning. So people know, fighters know when fighters have a good, you know, are threats to them. Don't think they don't. You know what I'm saying? But that's another reason why the fight didn't happen, because Mayweather put up this ridiculous, you know what I'm saying, offer, and knew good and well Mayweather wasn't gonna take. I mean, that Pacquiao was not gonna take that offer. You know what I'm saying? That just, to me, when you start coming up with all this stuff, that's just ways of you saying you don't want to fight. You don't want to fight the man right now. You don't want to fight him right now. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather rather wait till he slow down, or, you know what I'm saying, take some punishment, be in some wars, and then, okay, I'll fight him then. You know what I'm saying? Like Cotto. Cotto was in that. Him and Cotto, I don't know why the fight didn't happen when it should have happened, but him and, you know, Cotto was in a war with Margarito. Margarito had the glove thing where he padded his gloves with some shit and beat the crap out of Cotto. You know what I'm saying? Ruined his career, because Cotto was never the same after that. And you know, then Cotto did the catch weight with Pacquiao, which I didn't agree with the catch weight at the time. But, you know, like shout out to Boxing Beats and Rhymes. When a grown man agrees to a contract and he knows it's at a catch weight, okay, why should we get mad, you know what I'm saying, about the catch weight, and the guy agreed to it? He didn't have to agree to it. He agreed to it. He fought he thought he could beat Manny Pacquiao at the catch weight, so he fought, and he took another beating in that fight. You know what I'm saying? He took, some hellacious punches, got knocked down a couple times. You know what I'm saying? And Cotto was never the same after those two fights anyway. So the Cotto that fought Mayweather a couple years back, or last year or whatever, you know what I'm saying? That was not the Cotto before the Margarito fight. You know what I'm saying? And Cotto still gave a good account of himself in that Mayweather fight, even though Mayweather won to me by at least 4 rounds. People look at the fight and say, well, Mayweather's nose was bleeding. Okay, so his nose was bleeding. Okay, that don't mean the fight was close. But anyway, so he wouldn't fight Pacquiao on those grounds. So here we go. Another year passed. The fight still ain't happened. Now people starting to lose their luster. Now people starting to blame Mayweather and say, Mayweather, it's your fault because the fight is not happening because, okay, Manny Pacquiao said he agreed to the drug test. Now it's the money. Why didn't Mayweather just say, okay, we going to make a lot of money because y'all going to make buku money off of this. Why don't you just say, okay, 50-50, we go 50-50 on the main person, then we go 50-50 on the pay-per-view. Let's make the fight happen. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm fighting for, I made a lot of money. At this point, Mayweather made so much money. I want to fight for legacy. This is a legacy fight, you know what I'm saying? Because people saying that you the best fighter of this era, Pacquiao, was like an 8-division champion. People saying you the best fighter of this era. Man, if you're a competitor, you won't say, okay, people think you the best. Man, I'm about to get in the ring and fight you because I know I'm the best. I came out of my mouth, I put myself out there and say I'm the best fighter of all times. Not a best fighter. I'm not saying I'm the best fighter of this era, which people saying Pacquiao is the best fighter of the era. I'm going to go a step further. I'm the best fighter of all times. And I'm about to go in here and prove I'm the best fighter of all times by beating this guy that y'all think is better than me in this era. No, Mayweather didn't do that, man. He ran away from the challenge. In my opinion, he ran away from the challenge, man. I'm telling you. If that was, let's say, I'm going to put myself in that position. If that was me, I'm taking the fight. 50-50 down the middle, let's fight. Because it doesn't matter that you on performance enhancing drugs. You can't touch me anyway. I even said in my mouth, I got the best defense ever. You know what I'm saying? And in a lot of people's opinions, a lot of people say Mayweather got the best defense ever. If you can't touch me, it don't matter what you take. You can take all the drugs you want. If you can't touch me, you're not gonna win the fight anyway. I'm gonna still go in here and obliterate you and beat you and show you that I'm the best fighter of all times. He didn't do that. And that's why a lot of people have a problem with Mayweather legacy. That's why his legacy is in question. His legacy is in question because people, in a lot of people's opinions, in my opinion, that he ducked a lot of fighters, man. You know what I'm saying? To a certain extent, he ducked Manny Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather, and then he fought guys like Victor Ortiz. Okay, Victor Ortiz came off that big win against Berto. But that was only one win. Before that, Victor Ortiz had quit against Marcus Maidana. You know what I'm saying? So Victor Ortiz had a mental problem, and Mayweather knew that if a fighter get broken once, he can get broken again mentally. And you know what I'm saying? Mayweather's not stupid. He knew that Ortiz could be broken mentally again. So even though he had that great fight against Berto and had that great performance against Berto, you know what I'm saying? I know you can be broken again. You quit before. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people say, okay, he fought Ortiz. That was a good win for him. Not really, because he could have fought somebody else. He didn't have to fight Ortiz because he beat Berto. Okay, he beat Berto. Okay, like Berto was a world beater. Berto was undefeated, yeah, but Berto wasn't a world beater. You know what I'm saying? Up until that point, that was Berto's toughest test. They both was each other's toughest tests. Because before that fight, Berto didn't really fight nobody. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people thought Berto lost to Luis Collazo. You know what I'm saying? The guy with all the tattoos. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. So he wasn't a world beater. You know what I'm saying? But Mayweather, this is his blueprint. You know what I'm saying? He fought Zab Judah after Zab Judah lost to Carlos Baldomir. Knowing Zab Judah was not mentally the same Zab Judah before he lost to Carlos Baldomir, I'm gonna step in and fight him right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I think right now mentally he's for the taking. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna step in and fight him right now. Ortiz, I'm gonna step in and fight him right now. You know what I'm saying? I know he had a good win against Berto, but he quit before, so he can quit again. You know what I'm saying? And that fight that he had against Ortiz did headbutt him. You know what I'm saying? I agree with Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with Mayweather taking the shot with the hands down, but hey, they say protect yourself at all times. I was mad because I paid for the fight and I didn't want the fight to end like that. I was mad. You know what I'm saying? I said, you can't do that. Let the man get his hands up at least. You know what I'm saying? Because Ortiz was looking at the ref, but Mayweather took the shot. That's him. That's on him. He the one got to look back at that and be like, okay, that's on my legacy. That's one of my fights that a lot of people thought I took a cheap shot at the guy, which he did. But Berto, headbutted him, real bad in the corner, So, two wrongs will make a right though. But hey, I can't fault Mayweather for doing what he did. I just fought him because I paid for the fight and I was mad because I didn't want the fight to end like that. But anyway, so people looking at Mayweather's legacy and questioning, the opponents, not the opponents on his, because he had some good names on his he had some great names on his legacy, on his record. It's when he fought the people. You fought Zab Judah after he lost to Carlos Baldomir. You fought Ortiz. Yeah, he had a good win against Berto, but he had quit in his previous fight. He didn't put some fights together, and then you fought him. He was a year removed, or not that long removed, from quitting against Marcus Maidana, a fighter that he was supposed was brought in there for him to win against. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, okay, he fought Shane Mosley. A lot of people say, Shane Mosley was up in age, but Shane Mosley had destroyed Antonio Margarito, a fighter that Mayweather didn't want to fight, let's be honest. Antonio Margarito came to Mayweather face to face, man to man, and said, why don't you fight me? And, it's video footage. Mayweather was like, I respect you, you know what I'm saying? We just got to get, I guess he was saying, you got to get things together and then maybe we'll fight down the line. But, he looked spooked. He looked spooked when he was talking to Antonio Margarito. He looked like he was spooked, man. I'm telling you. He sat down the whole time. He didn't stand up. When a man is standing over you, you know what I'm saying? You don't let a man stand over you and challenge you to a fight. I know it wasn't a street fight. It was a boxing fight, professional fight, but any type of realm of a fight. You stand up and look at that man face to face and say, I'm not scared of you. Mayweather didn't do that. He sat down in that chair. That's another thing. That's another thing I got a problem with. Mayweather got a problem with, facing tough competition, man. Let's just be honest. He has a problem with facing tough competition. Somebody that's gonna, compete with him. It just seemed like he got a problem with tough competition, man. And he didn't fight the Cotto that Antonio Margarito fought. You know what I'm saying? He didn't fight the Shane Mosley that Oscar De La Hoya fought. I'm not really going to put that on him because, Shane Mosley did have a good win against Antonio Margarito. Shane Mosley had put some strings of wins together. And I'm going to give him credit for that Shane Mosley fight. You know what I'm saying? But that Ortiz fight, you know what I'm saying? The Guerrero fight. Guerrero moved up, you know what I'm saying, 2 weight classes to fight Aidin, or whatever his name was. And then he had a good fight against Andre Berto. It's like when a fighter have a good fight against Andre Berto, they get a Mayweather fight. I don't see how that happens. I don't see how is that the road to fighting Mayweather, because Andre Berto getting beat up by Guerrero, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a shock. It was just a shock that Guerrero beat him up in the fashion he beat him up in. It wasn't a shock that Guerrero won the fight. But should Guerrero got the fight, next in line to get the fight? No. He should have fought somebody else. The reason why Guerrero got the fight because he's Mexican and he had and that's the biggest following, and Mayweather fights a lot of Mexican fighters that are flat-footed. I'm not being racist. They are flat-footed. They're slower than him. You know what I mean? He doesn't. Anytime he fights a slick black fighter, he has problems with them. He had problems against. He had a really good big scare against Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley is not really a slick fighter to me, but he's a black fighter, so he had problems with Shane Mosley. He got rocked, you know what I'm saying, in the second round. Almost knocked out. He had problems with Zab Judah in the first 4 rounds. Zab Judah actually scored a knockdown, which they didn't count. And if they would have counted that, Zab Judah would have been up 3 on the 3 points on the scorecards. He had problems against Chop Chop Corley. Chop Chop Corley hurt him. You know what I'm saying? So Mayweather's blueprint is, I'm gonna make a lot of money and take less risks as possible. Fight people at the right time. See, Mayweather fights he even said, for me to be as successful as I am, I must have did something right. You know, my team must have matched me up, you know, right, for me to be as successful as I am. So he knows that he fought fighters at the right time. He knows that he's taking less risks as possible and making a lot of money. So he's laughing at people when people say, what about your resume? I mean, what about your legacy? He don't care about his legacy. The only ones that really care about his legacy are us fight fans, and the only ones that's making crumbs about his legacy and mad about people talking about his legacy is Mayweather hardcore fans, because he even said in his mouth, I'm not worried about my legacy. So he's not fighting for his legacy. You know what I'm saying? He's fighting for money, which is fine, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm fighting for money and, oh, yeah, I'm the best fighter ever. No, you're not the best fighter ever. You know what I'm saying? There's so many fighters. Mayweather is not even in my top 30. It's so many fighters. This boxing game go back to over 100 years. There's so many fighters that and past champions that done way more than Mayweather. And another thing, not going off topic, but him fighting at 160. A lot of his fans say, oh, he shouldn't fight at 160 because those guys are bigger than him. Okay. Other past greats came up from lower weight classes, ended up fighting 160. Roberto Duran came from 135, 130. He fought at 160. Sugar Ray Leonard fought at 160. Even light heavyweight. Thomas Hearns fought at light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Armstrong, that guy went up in weight and fought, you know, at heavier weights. Why Mayweather can't do it? He's the best fighter ever. If you're the best fighter ever, you have to do something beyond what they did. You have to show us something that they didn't do. You know what I'm saying? That's how you raise the bar. If you want to raise the bar, you know what I'm saying, and be the best fighter ever, well, do something they didn't do. He can go to 160. He could fight at 160, you know what I'm saying? No, he don't want to take the risk at 160. That's why he don't want to fight at 160. You know what I'm saying? That's why he don't want to fight Sergio Martinez. You know, coming out and saying, he even said out his own mouth. His father said it, and his uncle said it. Sergio Martinez is too big for Mayweather. That's what they said out their mouths. So are they hating on their own son and nephew because they said it? It's not hating when you talk about his legacy, because when you say you're the best fighter ever, people are going to go back and, okay, we're going to start analyzing your resume. Another great fighter, it's a fighter that could have followed this blueprint and could have took the same criticism that Mayweather took, and that's Oscar De La Hoya, because at one time Oscar De La Hoya was in the same position as Mayweather is in. Oscar De La Hoya could have fought, but he was in a better, I'm going to say he was in a better position, because Oscar De La Hoya could have fought anybody and still made money. He could have carried anybody on a pay-per-view and made a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't have to fight Tito Trinidad when they was both undefeated. He could have avoided Tito Trinidad for a while if he wanted to. He could have waited till Tito Trinidad took losses and till Tito Trinidad was in wars. He could have did that. Oscar De La Hoya could have followed that blueprint easily. I read an article that this one guy said Oscar De La Hoya could have been a fighter that could have potentially retired undefeated, because he could have made money with anybody. Oscar De La Hoya he was going to make money regardless. But he was looking at the fact that Oscar De La Hoya was looking at his legacy. He was saying, oh, no, I want to challenge myself against the best fighters. So, yeah, did Oscar De La Hoya duck some fighters? I'm pretty sure he ducked some fighters. I'm pretty sure, you know, people can come up with some fighters he ducked. All fighters have ducked people. You know what I'm saying? Going back to the beginning of the time, all fighters have ducked people. But he could have followed his blueprint before Mayweather followed his blueprint, and probably could have you know what I'm saying, retire undefeated because he could have picked and choose and waited till fighters got old, or waited till fighters took losses, or waited till fighters' confidence wasn't there, quite there. You know what I'm saying? So he could have did it, but he didn't do it. But Mayweather is doing it. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather, his legacy is in question. Now, what he do with these? Now he has what? 3 more fights left? 4 more fights left? Let's see who he fights. You know what I'm saying? He made a lot of money. He need to start fighting for his legacy. He made plenty of money. Start fighting for your legacy, Mayweather. This is Boxing Talk 8576. I'm out.